Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today, I'm going to rank the studio discography of Journey. Very, very popular band over the years, American band. They started off doing kind of like a post-Santana, fusion-y, instrumental rock thing with a little bit of vocals. Steve Perry joins the band. They skyrocket to superstardom. They kind of go quiet for a while, all right, get back together with Perry. Perry leaves again and retires from music. They get a new singer, Steve Augeri. He lasts a couple albums and tours. Then he leaves, medical issues, right, with his singing voice. Arnel Pineda comes in, fresh from the Philippines, singing Journey classics and cover bands and whatnot. He's been now in the band for a long time, well over a decade. So the band's still going strong to this day. Not a ton of albums, but some really great albums. I got to tell you, I don't dislike any of these Journey albums, all right? I ranked them the best I could. There are obviously some that are very near and dear to me because I've been listening to these guys for ages. I think the first Journey album I bought was Departure, way back when. And I've been a big fan ever since. I like all their eras. Some albums are obviously a lot stronger than others, right? But even the ones that are towards the bottom of my list, I still dig quite a bit. So, your mileage may vary. That's kind of the whole purpose of doing these shows, is for me to be the conversation starter, right? Give you my opinions on how I rank these albums, but more importantly, it's supposed to be a musical discussion and sharing of what we love, what we don't love, and why, right? So I want everybody to kind of think about that. And if you love Journey, if you like Journey, give us your favorite albums, how you rank these, or pick your top 5 or top 10 or whatever. All right, if you don't like them, hey, what can I tell you, right? But remember, just respect everybody's opinions. Because we all hear these albums differently. So just because myself or someone else places an album at the bottom of the list or at the top of the list doesn't have to agree with yours, right? But just tell us why you like what you like, okay? And the reasons for it, right? That's what it's all about. So let's get started at the bottom of my list, all right? I'm going to go with their kind of like comeback album from 1996. They had been kind of dormant with releasing new product for a long time, other than singles and things like that. I'm going to go with Trial by Fire. Getting back together, putting out an album. I don't think it's a very successful album. For me, this is the weakest Journey album. And I'll tell you why. First of all, there's a lot of songs on here. A lot of songs. I think like some of the Journey albums from this time period. And again, it's probably due towards the length of material you can put on a CD. But I think a lot of bands were guilty of filling that CD up to the max, right? 70 plus minutes. In a lot of cases, that's a lot, right? I think this album suffers for that. I also find this album just kind of like a tad, kind of by the numbers. It's like the band, they're just kind of going through the motions, back together, right? Gonna, make some money, do a tour. I don't even think the tour ever happened. Just a last gasp with Steve Perry. And he shortly thereafter was back to distancing himself from the band and retired basically from music until, a recent solo album. And, one of the things I always kind of go back to, I remember buying this when it first came out. If you look at the back cover, you see how Perry, from the first time I looked at this, I'm like, what is wrong with this picture? So all the rest of the guys standing close together, kind of looking over this way, and there you got Perry all the way over there looking the opposite direction. So, unless it was intentional, why would you release this picture? Because it obviously shows the kind of divide in the band. And in actuality, that's what really was going on. So I don't know. It just seemed like from the start, this album was kind of doomed. It starts off good. Message of Love and One More are very strong tunes. Okay, Message of Love is a great song, kick-ass song. Great Neil Schon guitar solos in that. And then you got When You Love a Woman, which was the big, massive ballad hit on this album, right? Okay. But, If He Should Break Your Heart, that's a pretty good song. Castles Burning is a very good song. All right, and you got a couple of others throughout that are okay, but my problem is way too many songs, way too many kind of mid-paced, syrupy ballads that just really don't have a lot of those great Journey hooks and, memorable melodies and things like that. I find this album just kind of bland. All right, couple really strong tracks, the rest, just kind of forgettable. And also, A lot of talk about, when Steve started having problems with his vocals. Not one of his best vocal performances on a Journey album either. Still fine for what it is. But if you really, really listen to it, big difference between that and even the next album, Raised on Radio, which is the one that came 10 years before it. That's going to be next in line here for me. All right, from 1986. Also kind of a mellow album, and I think, again, it's a product of the time. So, their last album was in 83 for Frontiers. They waited a couple years. They released this. All right, not a bad album. It's got a couple strong tracks, but for me, it's just kind of like very 80s kind of pop, right? And again, not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I like Journey songs that have a lot of balls, but have the great soaring vocals and the catchy melodies and hooks. So that for me, that's what Journey's all about. Call it arena rock or whatever you want to call it. So, Girl Can't Help It, kind of a nice pop tune, right? I always kind of dug that song. Be Good to Yourself is killer. All right, very catchy rocker. What else? I'll Be All Right Without You, dig that a lot. Positive Touch, pretty good. Raised on Radio, the title track, okay. I mean, most of the rest of the tracks are okay. I personally don't find this to be upper level Journey. I never have, but it's okay. It's all right. All right, next up, I'm going to go with the second album that had Steve Augeri on vocals, all right, from the early 2000s, Generations. This actually is an enjoyable album. I dug this quite a bit when it came out. Looking back on it, it's very solid. It's not top shelf Journey, but Faith in the Heartland, great song. The Place in Your Heart, I dig. Every Generation's a really catchy tune. What else? Out of Harm's Way, Self Defense, a couple other kind of would-be, could-be ballady hits, but by this time, rock radio is only playing songs that came out, in the 70s and the early 80s and playing the same 100 songs over and over and over again. So if you are a band who actually has a few songs that classic rock radio plays to death, your new stuff is not going to get played. So, and I think Steve Augeri, fine singer, fits right in here. Performances on here are good. I like this album. Again, it's not a great album, but it's a solid latter period Journey album. As is this one, Arrival. Okay, this is released in 2000, right at the end of the year. This is the first full-length studio release with Steve Augeri on vocals. Steve, of course, from New York. Just like Generations, I think this is a very solid album. Again, 15 songs. And I think the issue I have with this album is it's got 15 tracks, which is kind of like pushing the boundaries, right? But every song is 5-6 minutes long. Which, when you're singing kind of ballady type songs and up-tempo melodic rock songs and hard rock songs, yeah, maybe, that extra minute or so, not always needed. So you have these songs, they kind of have some nice hooks, quick little Neil Schon solos and whatever, but dragged out just a little bit too long. But in saying that, spectacular performances here, solid vocals, a lot of hooks, Higher Place. Great catchy tune to lead off the album. All the Way I Like. Signs of Life is great. What else? World Gone Wild is good. Living to Do, good bluesy rocker. Again, another example of 5.5 minutes, 6.5 minutes long. 4.5. A lot of the tunes are good, but they kind of lose a little bit of steam. Maybe a little bit of tighter songwriting. But I enjoyed this album. I dig it. All right, next, we got the debut studio album with Arnel Pineda. Fine album, Revelation. Okay, you got, I believe this was a Walmart exclusive, right? So it's got the second disc of re-recorded classics with Arnel on vocals, which, it's fun for what it is. But I think the album proper, very solid album. All right, so here, you got Arnel along with Dean Castronova on drums, and you got Ross Valerie, Neil Schon, okay, Jonathan Cain, all right, so Never Walk Away, catchy song. Like a Sunflower, I always like, or Sun Shower, sorry, I always like that song a lot. Change for the Better, I think, should have been a hit. That's a very, very cool up-tempo rock song with a killer hook. Wildest Dream, another really good song. They remake Faith in the Heartland from the Generations album, which sounds really good. After All These Years is basically the kind of follow-up to Faithfully. and was a minor hit. But again, if you were to release this album back in like the mid-late 80s, that song would have been enormous. All right, enormous. Whether you like songs like that or not, but Open Arms, Faithfully, after all these years, I mean, they've come from the same cloth, and that's classic Journey, right? Classic Journey ballad. What else we got on here? Where Did I Lose Your Love? What It Takes to Win. Turn Down the World Tonight. I think that top to bottom, this is a very solid album with some very accessible, up-tempo, hard rock and melodic rock songs. Okay? Even more so. And this album got pretty much ignored, and it's a real damn shame because it's easily Journey's heaviest, hardest rocking album. It's got great vocals from Arnell on it. Neil Schon is amazing on here, just laying down tons of molten riffs and solos, and it's got catchy tunes, and people just freaking ignored it, which is a damn shame. And I think that, after this one didn't really sell much of anything, I think the band were kind of like, yeah, what's the point of making new music anymore because nobody's buying it. I bought it. I loved it. And I'm talking about Eclipse, okay, from, was this 2011? Geez, 9 years ago almost already. Crazy when you think about it. I just think top to bottom, and I listen to this still a lot, I just think this is just cranking Journey, man. City of Hope, great kind of fist-pumping anthem. Edge of the Moment, another hard-rocking song. Again, some of the Journey's heaviest stuff on here. Chain of Love, catchy as all hell. Tantra, all right, another one of those like heartfelt ballady songs with great Neil Schon solos in it. Again, kind of an extension of Open Arms, Faithfully, but like with a little bit more balls and a killer Arnel Pineda vocal. Anything Is Possible, catchy song. Resonate, another heavy rocker. She's a Mystery, another kind of cool pop tune. Could have been, should have been a hit. Human Feel, Ritual, another hard rocker. Just dig this album a lot. And I could not believe, like, when it came out, it's like, I'm like the only one touting this album, and people are just like, I didn't buy it. I didn't listen to it. I miss Steve Perry. It's like, all right, you know what? Everybody misses Steve Perry, but he's long gone. He's not coming back. It's like, Jesus, give some love to this band. All right, so next up. This particular one here could rank a little higher, but I don't quite like it as much as its two siblings that come before and after it, but I love it a lot. I'm going to go with their second album, Look Into the Future, from, 1976. All right, so here you've got Journey just, a year and a half removed from Greg Raleigh and Neil Schon leaving Santana. You got that period of Santana, the third and fourth albums, you got a lot of kind of jazz fusion kind of coming into their Latino rock sound, right? So Greg and Neil took that to Journey, started this band Journey with Ansley Dunsbar and Ross Valerie, okay? Ansley Dunsbar, great choice for a drummer, acclaimed British drummer, right? And they brought that kind of like jazz fusion-y feel to this new band that played a lot of instrumentals, some vocal music. Greg, fantastic singer as well as a Hammond organ player. And instead of the Latino rhythms and things like that, they decided to inject like a healthy rock feel, all right, to their songs, rock and blues rock. So here, those first three Journey albums, you had like prog rock and jazz fusion, blues rock, heavy rock, all colliding for this like great sound and awesome like instrumental songs with plenty of firepower. Man, I tell you, Neil Schon, always one of the most unique, recognizable players on the scene, but man, was he explosive back when he was a kid. Holy shit. You listen to some of those, like, those couple of the Santana albums he was on, but most importantly, those first few Journey albums, and he still plays explosively, but man, when you realize how young he was at the time, just like exploding with these solos and cranking riffs. Anyway, back to Look Into the Future. I like the album that came before it and after it a little bit better, but this is still very, very strong. And, She Makes Me Feel All Right, great song. The title track is very cool. Midnight Dreamer, it just, cool tunes. I find this album a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? A couple of tunes kind of border on kind of blues rock boogie type stuff, which was very popular at the time, but they're still very, very good. But, the majority of the tracks on here are stellar. Again, a young band just really kind of kicking ass. So that's coming in next. All right, next up. I'm going to go with the first album I ever bought by them, which was Departure. All right, still a very, very strong album. If you would have asked me like way back then, I might have ranked it a little bit higher. But just because it's sitting here right around the middle of the pack doesn't mean I don't love it, because I do. Any way you want it. Obviously, the big hit off the album. Walks Like a Lady. Someday Soon. What else? People and Places, Precious Times. Where Were You? Kick-ass song. Kick-ass song. What else? I'm Crying, with that screaming lead guitar work on it. Line of Fire. Kick-ass. Stay a While. Again, Steve Perry, just an amazing singer. Just kind of basically took this band and, rode them to the stars. And I think it's a very, very strong album. Easily one of their best, because all the ones that I'm talking about are just killer. The next few, including Departure, my mood could change at any time, and I might swing one higher than the other. I was sitting there trying to figure out how I'm going to put the top half of this list together. And I'm like, God, I love all of these so much. So next up, I'm going to go with Frontiers. Again, could rank higher if you ask me a week or two from now. It's got some of my favorite tracks on it, and a couple tunes that I'm like, just okay with. But, Separate Ways is killer. Send Her My Love, great ballad. Chain Reaction, kick-ass song. After the Fall, unforgettable melodies there. You got Faithfully, right? You got my favorite Journey song of all time, Edge of the Blade. All right, just ripping, showing guitar attack on that song, right? What else? Back Talk rocks hard. The song Frontiers is great. Rubicon is awesome. An amazing album, right? One of their best easily. It depends on, kind of how it all falls, right? I'm going to go with Escape next. This album was huge for me. I got to see them on this tour and absolutely loved it. And I think, for a lot of people, this kind of took that formula of Departure and a couple albums after it and just, brought it to all the masses. I mean, all of them. They had a big following before this, but it was with this that all of a sudden, seemed like everybody was into Journey, right? Of course, Don't Stop Believin'. One of the most recognizable songs of all time. The song that I still love, because this brings back great memories of my wedding night, because that was played twice at my wedding night. Once, I think I've told this story before, once during the evening at the reception on the dance floor, everybody was out there having a great time to it. And then at the after party, after 1,000 beers later, right, myself, my wife, and a small circle of friends at the hotel, at the bar, closing the bar to Don't Stop Believin', and it just capped off a, ridiculously good day, and I will always have fond memories of it, even though it's played to death. Stone in Love, great hard rockin' song. Who's Crying Now? What else? Keep on Running is a great hard rocker, dig that a lot. Still They Ride. Escape, Lay It Down, Dead or Alive, killer song. Mother Father, totally underrated song. Open Arms, you know what? I was never a big fan of Open Arms, sorry. Just not a big fan. I know it was a huge hit for them. Not a big fan. All right, next up, so we're at number 4 here. So that was number 5. Number 4, I'm going to go with Next. Next is Next. Yeah, this is a strong album. Big time. A lot of good, heavy songs on here, too. Mixed with some of that cool kind of fusion-y, proggy thing that they got going on. You got Spaceman, freaking Hustler. Hustler, what a great guitar riff in that. Nickel and Dime, Karma, title track, Here We Are. Man, just at top to every song on here is great. People, I Would Find You, and this is just a 4-piece. All right, Sean Dunbar, Valerie, and Raleigh. Man, were they a formidable foursome. Dig that album a lot. All right, coming in at number 3, I'm going to go with Evolution. Love that cover. This is just an album just jam-packed with Journey classics, right? Early or mid-period Journey classic, whatever the hell you want to call it. Too Late, Majestic, Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin'. City of the Angels. I love that song. What else? When You're Alone, It Ain't Easy. Great vocal from Steve Perry on that. Loving You Is Easy, Just the Same Way You Love. One of the things that I really loved about this period of Journey, and I wish they did it more, and I wish that he stayed in the band. I always loved, and I'm using Just the Same Way as an example here. I loved when Steve and Greg sang together in songs. All right, where Steve would sing, the main verses or whatever, and then Greg would come in on the chorus, or vice versa. I think their vocals just complemented each other so well, and it kind of brought at the time the current and the past of the Journey worlds colliding together, and it worked so well. And I wish Greg would have stuck around a little bit longer, and but arguably if he did, and Jonathan Cain didn't come into the band, would they have written all those 80s classics, whatever. The What If, right? The What If for today. Do You Recall? Great song. Just an unbelievable album, I think, that holds up so well today. Their 70s albums are just dynamite. All right, the top two, I was debating. I'm debating. You know which ones are left, right? So I'm going to go with my number 2 for today. I'm going to go with the self-titled debut. This is a hell of an album, people. A hell of a debut. Again, instrumentals mixed with good rockin' hard rock tunes. Of a Lifetime is an otherworldly track. It's proggy, it's hard rockin', it's got a little bit of fusion in it. It's got some amazingly emotional guitar work from Neil Schon. I love Greg Rowley's vocals and Hammond organ in this tune. It's just one of my favorite Journey songs. Absolutely love Of a Lifetime. What else you got? How Tech, all right? The incredible Topaz. I mean, that's like a freaking hard rockin' jazz fusion monster instrumental. Love that. All right? And you got In My Lonely Feeling, Conversations, great. Mystery Mountain to close it all off. What else? To Play Some Music, In the Morning Day. Just a great mix of material. And like a young band that just, you listen to this and you're like, oh my God, they sound like they've been playing together forever. And we forget like how young, some of the guys in the band were at the time. But, you got some professionals in there. Greg Rowley's been in Santana from the beginning. Neil Schon's a young buck, superstar on guitar. You got Ainsley Dunbar, right? He's been around forever. Drummer extraordinaire, playing in Ainsley Dunbar Retaliation and all the other stuff he did in the 60s, right? All the classic blues bands. I mean, it's just a great debut. Love it. But, when it comes down to it, I was like, I just think my number 1 had to be my number 1 because it's just such a cracking album. It's Steve Perry's recording debut with the band, talking about Infinity. All right. There's just some songs on here that are just like absolutely incredible. It starts off with Lights. Great bluesy pop song, right? Awesome. Feeling That Way. And then I love how Feeling That Way goes into Any Time, right? Both songs that need to be kind of lumped together, always just fantastic. La Doo Da is kind of a silly song from a lyrical perspective, but man, cranking, rampaging Neil Schon on that, right? Just ass-kicking stuff. Then you've got the gorgeous Patiently, all right? Gotta give props to the vocal stylings of Steve Perry, man. Unforgettable stuff here. And then, of course, you got Wheel in the Sky. All right. A great FM hard rock, classic rock staple. Not necessarily a hit for the band, but it's been a perennial play on FM classic rock forever. Deservedly so. Great hard rockin' song that just has such great pacing to it. The guitar work is great. The vocals are great. The rhythms, the whole thing. Just a great, great simmering, burning song. Love it. Something to Hide, for me, is the unsung gem on this album. Perry's vocals, the haunting vocals, the keyboards, the simmering keyboards, the great guitar work. I love the chorus. I just can't get enough of that song. Winds of March. Epic Journey. Mixing prog and heavy rock and pop and just all that they do so well. Winds of March, another one of my favorite Journey songs, okay? Can Do and Open the Door finish it up, two also very solid tracks. I don't know, man. Just when it comes down to it, I have a hard time any of these albums beating this one. Although it's close, right? You can make a case for any of my top 5 or 6, but a great band. And I think, again, another one of those bands that, so many people who are not album people, right, who just listen to what's force-fed them on the radio, they're always like, oh my God, Journey, that terrible pop band, I never need to hear any of those songs again. I've heard them a million times. They suck, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? If all you know is like maybe 5 of those, you Open Arms and Faithfully and, all the other usual suspects, if that's all you know, you've heard them too many times, and because of those, you hate Journey, man, you are missing out. You are absolutely missing out, because there's so many great, deep, and fantastic cuts on so many of these albums that you should just kind of like really go and start listening to some of these albums start to finish, because they're fantastic. They're fantastic, all right? A great, talented band. Neil Schon, one of the unsung guitar heroes of all time. Nobody sounds like him. He's got a style all his own. He's still kicking ass to this day. I don't know, just a band that just knows how to write a great song. Okay, that's what it comes down to. So anyway, let's recap my list. So we're going to start number 1, Infinity. All right. Number 2, Journey, self-titled debut. Number 3, Evolution. Number 4, Next. Number 5, Escape. Number 6, Frontiers. Number 7, Departure. Number 8, Look into the Future. Number 9, Eclipse. Number 10, Revelation. Number 11, Arrival. Number 12, Generations. Number 13, Raised on Radio. And number 14, coming in at the bottom, is Trial by Fire. I am actually amazed that this video is 26 minutes long. See what happens when you talk about a band that you really like. You just start gabbing and gabbing and gabbing, or really getting into the nitty-gritty of the albums, and before you know it, it's a half hour's gone by. Holy shit. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this, right? So stay tuned. We got coming up over the next couple days, ranking the studio album of, kind of related, The Babies. All right, and ranking the studio albums of Bachman Turner Overdrive. All right, Canada's own BTO, the heavy hitters from up north. So you don't want to miss any of that. I got some other new product reviews coming up. All sorts of stuff happening. All sorts of stuff happening. You don't want to miss any of it. So thanks for all the requests and all the stuff. A lot of you guys have been asking for a lot of the same bands. Like, don't worry, Judas Priest is coming. Don't worry, Iron Maiden is coming, right? We're going to work on all these bands are coming. So you just got to give me time to get it all in the schedule and get prepared and all that kind of stuff, Motorhead, all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on the mighty YouTube all the damn time. So we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.